Let's be honest. We've all had days when we lost our peace to something painfully stupid. A guy cuts us off in traffic. A text comes in with the wrong tone. Someone chews too loudly in a meeting, and suddenly, we're done. You're clenching your jaw. You're snapping at the barista. You're replaying that one sentence over and over like it's the national anthem of your anxiety. All it took was someone chewing too loud, and suddenly, I was reevaluating all my life choices. The day is officially hijacked. And the worst part? You know it. But knowing doesn't stop it. Because even though your rational mind is whispering, "Let it go," your ego is screaming, "Oh no, we're going to war." And so you do the thing you always do, react. Maybe not outwardly. Maybe you're the quiet one who bottles it up with a fake smile and plans your revenge in the shower. Or maybe you're the exploder, quick to bite back, slam a door, prove a point. Either way, the outcome's the same. You don't feel powerful. You feel tired. Because every time you hand over your reaction, you hand over your peace. And you do it for free, to people who probably didn't even mean to piss you off. Here's what no one tells you. Anger isn't power. It's a trap. And the more you fall into it, the more it owns you. Not because you're weak, but because you've never been trained to pause. That's where Stoicism comes in. Not as a trendy quote on Instagram, but as a discipline built for real life. For chaos. For conflict. For the exact moment when your blood boils and your fingers are ready to fire off a regrettable text. Stoicism isn't about pretending you don't feel things. It's about learning how to choose your response, even when the world is begging for a reaction. Now let's be clear. This isn't about becoming some emotionless robot. You're not here to zen out every time someone disrespects you. You're human. You feel. You care. That's not weakness. That's the starting line. But feeling something isn't the same as obeying it. Your anger wants to be the CEO of your behavior. It says, react now, fix it now, get even. It lies. And you've believed it for years. The Stoics? They saw right through that. They knew that in every situation there's a space, a pause. And in that pause lies your power. You don't control traffic. You don't control your boss. You don't control that guy online who thinks debate means yelling in all caps. But you do control one thing: how you show up. And that's not just a nice idea. It's your only shot at peace. Think of Stoicism like emotional weightlifting. You don't walk into a gym for the first time and deadlift 300 pounds. You build strength rep by rep when no one's watching. Same with composure. You train it in little moments. When you choose breath over outburst. When you let the comment slide. When you walk away, not because you lost, but because you refused to give your energy to something beneath you. This video is not here to tell you, just be calm. It's here to show you how to rewire your reactions. We'll break down why anger feels automatic and how it's not. We'll explore the daily habits that build inner calm like a muscle, and we'll expose why letting go isn't giving up, it's leveling up. By the end of this video, you won't just understand Stoicism, you'll feel it, and more importantly, you'll use it. So if you're tired of overreacting, overthinking, and overgiving your peace to people who didn't earn it, you're in the right place. Let's begin, because here's the hard truth no one really wants to admit. Most of us aren't losing our peace because life is that hard. We're losing it because we've never trained our minds to handle the little stuff. And that little stuff, it adds up. It becomes a storm. A missed call turns into overthinking. A small slight turns into a week of resentment. And before you know it, you're living in reaction mode. Every day on edge, wondering why you're so damn tired all the time. It doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. And by the time we're done here, you'll see exactly why. You weren't born angry. You didn't pop out of the womb clenching your fists and yelling at nurses for breathing too loudly. That version of you, the one who snaps at traffic, slams doors, and replays arguments in your head for hours, that's not your identity. It's a habit, and like all habits, it was learned, rehearsed, reinforced. Maybe you grew up in a house where yelling was normal. Maybe you've been praised for being fiery or passionate, like those are personality traits. But the truth? Anger isn't some core part of you. It's a reflex you've accidentally trained into your system. That's how the Stoics saw it. To them, anger wasn't powerful. It wasn't masculine. It wasn't real. It was weakness in disguise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Translation? Don't become what you hate just to prove you're strong. Anyone can shout. Anyone can lose control. That's not strength. That's surrender, with volume. The real battlefield isn't the argument. It's not the guy who disrespected you, or the situation spiraling out of control. The real battlefield is that one tiny moment between trigger and response. And 99% of the time, we lose it before we even know we were in a fight. That's why most people keep making the same mistakes, because they think anger is something that just happens to them, but it's not. Anger is a habit of reacting before thinking, of skipping the pause, of letting your emotions write the script and handing them the mic every time something feels off. And here's the trap. Every time you give in, every time you lash out, your brain learns, this is how we deal with stress. This is who we are. But it's not who you are. It's just who you've been practicing. The Stoics flipped that script. They didn't aim to suppress anger. They aimed to see it, like a smoke alarm going off. Not something to obey, something to investigate. Imagine this. You're standing in line at the DMV. You've waited 40 minutes. Someone walks straight to the front like they own the place. Your chest tightens, your jaw locks, and in that split second, your mind flashes two options. Option A, blow up, prove a point. Option B, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, will this help? Option C, go viral on someone's TikTok for losing your cool in public. Option D, walk away and keep your blood pressure and your dignity. That's the moment. The battlefield. No one else will even notice it, but that's where your self-mastery is won or lost, because power doesn't come from dominating the room. It comes from not being dominated by your reflex. The next time that heat rises, don't shame yourself for feeling it. Just notice it. Step outside it. Tell yourself, this is just a habit, and I don't have to feed it today. And with that one choice, you begin the practice of unlearning anger, not by force, not by fear, but with clarity and control. That's Stoicism in action. Let's get one thing straight. Exploding might feel powerful, but it's fake power. It's the illusion of control, not the real thing. Because real control, it doesn't need to yell. It doesn't need to prove. It doesn't even flinch. We've all been there. Your idea gets shot down in a meeting. Not just dismissed, but publicly and with a smirk. You feel the heat crawl up your spine. Your mind's racing with comebacks. Your ego is banging on the table, screaming, "Say something. Defend yourself. Don't let them win." And if you really go for it, congrats. You just gave someone the best clip for their TikTok captioned "When meetings go wrong." And maybe you do. You cut in. You raise your voice. You reclaim your dignity by making it awkward for everyone. But later, after the adrenaline fades and the regret creeps in, you realize you didn't win anything. You just reacted. You gave them your power. You gave them the script. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In that moment, your strength wasn't taken from you. You gave it away. Now imagine an alternate ending. Same room. Same insult. But instead of snapping, you pause. You nod. You say, "Thanks for the feedback." And you let silence do the heavy lifting. Later in private, you speak your truth. With clarity, not emotion. That's composure. That's restraint with direction. That's power the room can feel, even if no one claps. That kind of calm isn't passive. It's not letting them get away with it. It's choosing your terms, your timing, your energy, your outcome. Because here's the truth most people miss. Trying to control others is a losing game. You can't force someone to respect you. You can't demand someone act right. But you can control how you show up, every time, no matter what they do. And that's where true power lives. When someone loses it in front of you, what happens? Do you think, "Wow, they're strong"? Or do you see them unravel? Exactly. Real control is quiet. It's in the man who hears the insult and doesn't flinch. It's in the woman who holds her tone when the room is baiting her for a reaction. It's in the leader who lets chaos pass, then speaks with stillness that cuts deeper than any shout. That's not weakness. That's precision. And it's terrifying to people who expect you to crack. The Stoics didn't walk away because they were afraid to engage. They walked away because they refused to give someone else that much access to their peace. So the next time someone pushes your buttons, don't try to win the room. Win yourself. Don't raise your voice. Raise your standard. Don't prove your strength. Preserve it. Not out of fear, out of choice. Because the person who controls their reaction controls the room. Calm doesn't show up when you need it. It shows up when you've trained it. Most people wait until they're overwhelmed to try to be composed. Like walking into a burning building and Googling how to use a fire extinguisher. But the Stoics knew better. They didn't just hope to be calm when chaos hit. They practiced it daily, like a soldier sharpening his blade before battle. Because calm isn't a switch. It's a skill. And like any skill, it's built in the quiet moments no one claps for. Think of emotional control, like lifting weights. You don't walk into the gym once a month, deadlift 300 pounds, and call yourself strong. You wouldn't skip leg day. Don't skip mind day either. Anger's like a muscle too, except it never skips arm day. It's always flexing. You show up, you do the reps, even on days when you don't feel like it. Same thing with your mind. You train calm when it's easy, so it's ready when it's not. Start small. Take 5 deep breaths before you speak. Journal what triggers you, not just what inspires you. Choose silence instead of sarcasm next time someone's fishing for a reaction. They may not notice, but you will. You'll walk away with energy intact. No guilt. No shame spiral. Just control. Quiet. Real. Undeniable. And here's what no one tells you. Calm compounds. Each time you pause instead of explode, you're building reps. Each moment of silence becomes a rep. Each breath you take instead of biting back, that's your mental gym. You're not holding it in. You're holding it down, like a pro. You're not training to be calm just for your own sanity. You're training so you don't pass down chaos. Because here's the truth. If you don't process your emotions, someone else will. Your partner, your kids, your team. They'll inherit the tension you refuse to release. That's why the Stoics practice calm like a duty. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And self-mastery doesn't come from reading quotes. It comes from reps. One breath when you want to interrupt. One pause before you clap back. One honest journal entry instead of a passive-aggressive text. That's training. And no, you won't get a trophy for it. But you will get something better. Peace that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. Because calm isn't about never being rattled. It's about knowing that when the storm hits, you've already trained for it. It's the same reason pilots run simulations. Why athletes stretch long before the game starts. Why warriors sharpen their blades long before battle. So when life throws its chaos, and it will, you don't flinch. You act, not react, and the world might not notice. But your inner world, it will feel like freedom. So don't wait for life to calm down. Train now, train daily. Not because it's easy, but because one day it won't be, and when that moment comes, you'll already be ready. Let's talk about the real root of most anger. Expectations. Not traffic, not your boss, not the person who left a passive-aggressive comment on your post. No. Anger begins when the script in your head doesn't match reality. You expected kindness, they gave you attitude. You expected control, and life laughed. The Stoics were clear. Expectations are the seeds of suffering. When you demand that life go your way, you're setting yourself up for war, with the world and with yourself. The truth is, most of what upsets us was never promised to us. Not a clear lane on the highway. Not applause at the meeting, not even respect from strangers. So when we don't get those things, and we react, we're not defending our dignity. We're defending a story that never existed outside our head. And that's exhausting. One day, I walked out to find a dent in the side of my car. No note, no explanation. Just a lovely fist-sized gift from the universe. My brain fired up immediately. Who did this? Where's the camera footage? This is why people suck. I briefly debated putting up a wanted poster. Then remembered I'm not Batman. But somewhere in that mental storm, a quieter voice asked, "Will anger undent the door?" And that's when I remembered. Control doesn't come from knowing who to blame. It comes from knowing what to release. So I stood there, keys in hand, staring at that dent like it owed me an apology, and I realized this moment was a fork in the road. Option A. Stew in anger. Post a rant. Spend the rest of the day annoyed. Option B. Breathe, accept, move on. I chose option B, not because I'm better, but because I've seen what it costs to stay angry, and it's never worth the receipt. Letting go doesn't mean you approve. It doesn't mean you're okay with what happened. It means you refuse to let one moment of chaos rent space in your head for free. Because the truth is, holding on to anger doesn't punish the other person. It punishes you, your clarity, your energy, your sleep, your next conversation with someone who had nothing to do with it. The Stoics didn't avoid conflict because they were passive. They practiced detachment because they were practical. If it's outside your control, it's not worth your peace. And yes, that sounds simple, but it's not easy. Because ego will always whisper, they need to understand how much they messed up. But peace whispers back, you don't need to carry that burden just to prove a point. So here's a rule worth remembering. If it doesn't help you grow, protect, or build, let it go. The dent in your car? Not worth it. The stranger's rudeness? Not worth it. The imaginary argument you've been winning in the shower for 3 days straight? Definitely not worth it. Letting go isn't weakness. It's a flex. The rare kind of strength that says, I know what matters. And it's not this. So next time the moment hits, pause. Ask, does this deserve my peace? If the answer is no, walk away like it's beneath you. Because it is. Most people see conflict as a threat, something to avoid, diffuse, escape from. But the Stoics? They saw conflict as practice. A pop quiz from the universe asking, have you actually been doing the work or just reading quotes? Because conflict doesn't create your weakness, it reveals it. You're not angry because someone challenged you. You're angry because that challenge touched something untrained inside you. That's why Seneca wrote, anger, an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. Every argument is a gym. Every insult is a weight. And every moment you choose measured over reactive, you get stronger. But let's be honest, sometimes we don't want to be calm. We want to win. Clap back. Drop the mic. Option A, keep your cool. Option B, go viral as angry conference guy on TikTok. Honestly, I was 2 seconds away from becoming a meme, and not the inspirational kind. We mistake reactivity for power. One time I had someone call me out publicly. Loud, rude, unjust. My ego sprinted to the front, fists raised, ready to swing. But then I remembered, this is the test, not just of what I say, but of what I am. Do I react and match their energy? Or do I show that I've actually trained for this? So I took a breath, and I responded like I wasn't the main character in a Netflix drama. Just facts. Calm tone. No heat. It didn't win me applause, but it won me something better. Self-respect. And the look on their face? Priceless. Not because they lost, but because I didn't play. That's the shift. Stop seeing conflict as something to win. Start seeing it as something to pass. Like a test of your emotional conditioning. Not every test has fireworks. Sometimes the win is invisible. No one claps, no one notices. But you'll feel it. You'll walk away without that pit in your stomach, without replaying the conversation 12 times in your head, without mentally drafting the perfect comeback in the shower 3 days later. You didn't avoid the fight. You passed the test. The Stoics weren't superhumans. They got angry too, but they trained to make space between the flame and the fuel. that space, that's where your power lives. So next time conflict knocks, don't flinch. Smile, because you know what it is. A test you've already trained for. And when you stay measured while they unravel, that's not silence, that's strategy. Anger loves time travel. It thrives in the past where regrets live, and in the future where fears bloom. You're not mad about the meeting. You're mad about how it reminded you of being dismissed 5 years ago. You're not anxious about the conversation. You're anxious about how it might blow up into something worse. The present? It's rarely the problem, but it's always the solution. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," because they understood something modern life keeps forgetting. Presence is armor. It's what stops your brain from replaying old arguments on loop. It's what quiets the internal chaos when you're spiraling over something that hasn't even happened yet. One time, I was stuck in traffic, already late, phone buzzing with texts like mini guilt bombs. My pulse spiked, shoulders tense. My brain was composing angry emails I'd never send. Then I did something radical. I looked out the window. Just looked. Trees, clouds, a kid making faces at another car. And just like that, something shifted. Not everything, but enough. Enough to feel like I was back in the driver's seat of my own head. Not because the problem vanished, but because I arrived, fully finally in the now. Here's the thing. Peace isn't somewhere you get to. It's somewhere you return to. And presence is the map. You don't need a yoga retreat in Bali. You don't need incense or a third eye. You just need 10 seconds of not mentally arguing with someone from 2016. Presence isn't exotic. It's just you, not scrolling for once. You need a moment. This one. Because the spiral ends the moment you decide to feel instead of fear. Feel your breath. Feel your feet. Feel the now, not as an escape but as an anchor. That's tactical mindfulness. It's not soft. It's not spiritual fluff. It's mental special ops, getting you out of your head and into your life. Epictetus didn't have an app, but he had the mindset. It's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. When you're present, you stop over-interpreting. You stop writing future tragedies and past rewrites. You start seeing what's actually here, and it's rarely as bad as your brain made it. So build the habit. Anchor often. When you walk, notice the ground. When you eat, actually taste it. When you speak, hear yourself. Not because it's trendy, because it trains your nervous system to stop bracing for impact and start trusting the moment. Anger thrives on distortion. But presence? It kills distortion with clarity, and that clarity, that's where peace begins. Resentment is sneaky. It doesn't show up like rage or panic. It settles in slowly, like emotional cholesterol. You don't notice it at first, but over time, it clogs up everything. Your joy, your clarity, your ability to be fully here, not stuck in what happened there. The Stoics saw resentment for what it really is, emotional debt. You're paying interest on a wound that's no longer bleeding, but still costing you peace. And here's the harsh truth. You don't carry resentment to punish others. You carry it because a part of you still wants justice. You want them to admit they were wrong, to feel what you felt, to suffer a little, just so you can feel a little better. That's human. But it's also a trap. Because every time you rehearse what they did, you reopen what you're trying to heal. It's like dragging a suitcase through every room of your life and wondering why everything feels heavy. There's this person I used to work with, condescending, two-faced, manipulative, the full bingo card. And for years I replayed moments, imagined comebacks, even dreamed about winning imaginary arguments. Then one day, mid-shower rant, 486, something clicked. They're not even in my life anymore. But I'm still giving them free rent in my mind, and, worst of all, they probably haven't thought about me once. While I've been running a courtroom in my head, judge, jury, and emotional janitor. That's not power. That's emotional bankruptcy. Forgiveness gets a bad rep. People think it means saying, what you did was okay. But that's not forgiveness. That's amnesia. Real forgiveness isn't approval. It's release. You're not excusing the harm. You're choosing not to relive it every time you remember it. Because here's the quiet cost of resentment. It steals your energy and invests it in people you no longer trust. It's like checking your emotional bank account every morning and seeing $37 transferred to that one person who wronged you in 2019. The Stoics didn't talk about forgiveness with flowers and kumbaya. They talked about clarity, detachment, letting go. Not because the person deserved it, but because you deserve peace. You deserve to show up today without dragging the past into every room. You deserve to make eye contact with the future, unburdened, and that doesn't happen when you finally get closure. It happens when you stop waiting for it. Forgiveness is self-liberation. A quiet rebellion against the stories that keep you stuck. So here's the rule. Reclaim the energy. Don't relive the offense. You don't have to send a letter. You don't even have to tell them. Just stop rehearsing pain that no longer serves you. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. Because peace isn't something they give you. It's something you stop giving away. Most people don't react. They replay. They're not responding to what's in front of them. They're reacting to what's behind them. Old wounds, old stories, old triggers dressed up in new clothes. That's why the Stoics obsessed over one thing, the pause, the tiny space between stimulus and response, that invisible beat where you get to decide, do I act on habit or on purpose? In that space, there's no applause, no lightning bolt, just a moment where you meet yourself before the world does. It sounds simple. It's not. Because when your boss criticizes you, or your partner says that thing, or your friend forgets something important, it doesn't feel like a moment. It feels like a fire alarm in your chest. But here's the practice. Don't silence the alarm. Sit with it. Take one breath, then one more, not to suppress the feeling, but to see it clearly. I had this moment once. Friend blindsided me in a group text. Total public call-out. My fingers were ready to fire. Ego on DEFCON 1. But then, I paused. Didn't reply. Didn't defend. Didn't deliver the 5-paragraph roast I mentally drafted. I just sat with the tension. And when I finally responded hours later, it came from clarity, not heat. And here's what surprised me most. I didn't lose anything by waiting. I gained everything. Because that pause, that was power. Not the kind that flexes, the kind that frees. I wasn't hijacked by my emotions. I wasn't forced to clean up a mess my anger made in 10 seconds. I was in control, not because I fought harder, but because I didn't flinch. The Stoics believed that real strength isn't loud. It's precise, measured, rooted. And in the modern world, where everyone's quick to clap back, cancel, or speak their truth before they've finished their coffee, pausing feels like rebellion. But it's not passivity. It's strategy. Because that breath you take, that's where intention is born. It's where you choose. Do I escalate this or elevate myself? You don't train the pause in big moments. You train it in small ones. When someone cuts you off. When the app crashes. When your partner forgets the milk again. That's your gym. That's your rep. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, you surprise even yourself. Not because you've stopped feeling, but because you've stopped obeying every feeling. And that's the mark of someone who's not just reacting to life, but mastering it. Because in the end, mastering the pause isn't just about sounding wise or looking calm. It's about reclaiming your agency, your ability to say, this moment doesn't own me, I own me. You might be thinking, okay, I get the idea. Pause, breathe, don't explode. But does anyone actually live this way when life gets messy? Let's make it real. We've talked theory. We've practiced in our minds. But how does this hold up when life actually punches you in the face? Let's take it into the real world. Claire wasn't born calm. In fact, 10 years ago, she was the type to yell at baristas for getting her name wrong. But something changed. She's not famous. She doesn't post quotes about Stoicism. She doesn't have a morning routine that includes journaling by candlelight. Claire is a trauma nurse. She works 12-hour shifts in a hospital that feels more like a war zone some nights than a place of healing. And every single day she's tested, not by philosophy but by blood, panic, screaming, loss. People walk in at their worst. Sometimes they yell, sometimes they're high, sometimes they're dying. And Claire is supposed to meet all that with calm. She wasn't always great at that. In her early years, she'd snap at coworkers, roll her eyes at patients, take every insult personally, because how could you not? When someone's screaming in your face or accusing you of not caring when you do care, it cuts deep. She told me once, it's not the emergencies that break you. It's the disrespect layered on top of your exhaustion. One night, a drunk man came in bleeding from a head wound. He was cursing, swinging at staff, calling Claire things I won't repeat. Security was called. Chaos everywhere. And Claire froze. Not out of fear, out of choice. She paused. One breath, then another. She remembered something her mentor had once told her. Don't match their chaos. Anchor their storm. So instead of yelling back, she lowered her voice. Instead of reacting, she responded. She asked a coworker to step in, stepped out, washed her hands, regrouped, returned. The man eventually calmed down, got treated, went home. He'll probably never remember her face. But Claire remembered that night as the moment everything shifted. She stopped being reactive, started being intentional. Now Claire does something every time things start spiraling. She pictures a rope. It's tied to her center, rooted deep. Every insult, every crisis, every tense moment, it pulls on the rope. but she decides how much slack to give, how much energy to hand over, how much peace to surrender. And most days, she doesn't let go. She lets the tension be there, but she doesn't obey it. That's what Stoicism looks like in real life. Not in perfect silence, not in robes, not in retreat, but in fluorescent lights, alarms going off, someone shouting in the next room. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about creating space to choose what you do next. Claire still gets tired, still feels everything, but she doesn't let it rule her. She doesn't let the worst moment of her shift dictate the story she tells herself when she gets home. She journals, not every day, but often. She does breath work, not because it's trendy, but because it works. And on the days when everything feels too much, she reminds herself, there's always a space. And in that space, I still have power. That's what I want you to take from this entire video. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be unshakable. You just need to train the pause. That little gap between impulse and action. That's where your peace lives. That's where your power grows. That's where you stop handing your day over to someone else's chaos. You don't need a philosophy degree. You need practice. Like Claire. Like all of us trying to do a little better. One breath at a time. Let's take a breath together. Right now. Seriously. One breath. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Seems small, right? But that moment, that pause, that's where everything begins. Because emotional mastery doesn't start in chaos. It starts in the space before it. In the second when your ego screams and your awareness whispers. Most people never hear the whisper. They're too fast, too loud, too conditioned to react. We think we're making choices when we're just repeating patterns. Anger, defensiveness, pride dressed up as standing up for ourselves. But the Stoics knew better. They taught that the person who can pause, who can resist the first impulse, is the one who holds real power. Not because they're cold, but because they're clear. Marcus Aurelius didn't chase peace by avoiding problems. He faced them head on, without flinching, without whining, without blaming, because he understood your inner state is your responsibility, always. That's not just philosophy, that's freedom. Because when you control yourself, you stop trying to control everything else. You stop being at the mercy of comments, of moods, of bad drivers and worse bosses. You stop living in reaction mode, and you start living on purpose. One breath at a time, one pause at a time, one moment of awareness that says, I will not give this situation my peace for free. That doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about your energy to waste it. And let's be honest, most of us don't need more motivation. We need more clarity, more training, more reminders that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just waits. Quiet, calm, certain. That pause, that's not hesitation. That's wisdom. And the more you train it, the more you realize this isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the world taught you to flinch. You won't always get it right. You'll still snap sometimes. You'll still let someone push your buttons. You'll still send the text you'll wish you hadn't. But that's okay. Because Stoicism isn't about perfection. It's about practice. Each day is a rep. Each difficult moment is a set. Each pause you take is a personal record. You're not failing. You're training. And the fact that you're here, watching this, says something. You're not interested in easy. You're interested in growth. Real, inner growth. The kind that doesn't show up in selfies but does show up when life gets hard. That's the kind of power no one can take from you. Not an ex, not a boss, not the internet. Because the truth is, the strongest people you know aren't the loudest. They're the ones who can stand in the fire and not let it burn their character. They pause. They breathe. They choose their response. And now you will too. So here's your challenge. Next time someone tests you, don't see it as an attack. See it as a rep. A chance to prove to yourself that you've been building something stronger than pride. Share this message. Reflect on what hit you. Journal about the last time you overreacted, and maybe don't read it out loud if there are witnesses. Start small, start real. Start now, because you won't become unshakable by thinking about it. You'll become unshakable by living it. One pause, one breath, one choice at a time. Your peace is too expensive to give away for free. Hold it close. Train it daily. Master yourself, and you'll master your life. And if all else fails, at least don't text your ex. Again, we'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay calm, stay kind, stay grounded.